Things haven't been looking exactly good in Mercedes' garage. You have two drivers, one of which is experiencing his first season for the team, and a 7-time world champion that is seeking revenge after last year's debacle at the last race. And you'd normally think that the team will force him as the first driver, because George Russell still has much to learn and hasn't quite gotten a grasp over the car. But after certain events transpired regarding the W13 and its performance, moreover about the porpoising problem, there is a massive chance that Mercedes will switch the focus from Hamilton to Russell for their number one choice. That is, if they haven't already done that by now. Wouldn't this be humiliating and a huge blow for Hamilton and his legacy? And if the next races show that Russell is the driver that Mercedes wants to constantly push, will Hamilton retire early in the season? Or even worse for Mercedes, is there a chance for him to sit in a car that will allow him to win races more often than the car he's racing in right now? Stick with us until the very end of this video, as we'll get into the deep regarding Mercedes and the problems they are facing right now. The starting of the 2022 season hasn't been very good for Mercedes. True, they've managed to get P3 and P4 on the race debut, but that was because both of the Red Bulls failed to finish due to reliability issues. And compared to all the other cars, it seems like Mercedes has the most reliable one in the paddock. That is a huge boost because, at the end of the day, they are still able to finish the race and race for points. However, this is not the level that Mercedes wants to be, nor the level that we are used to seeing them. After Hamilton's miserable performance in Jeddah and failing to pass Q1, you'd think that the team will have it figured out for the next races. Yet, you have him finishing P14 in Imola, unable to pass Gasly in the AlphaTauri. But is the car at fault here for Hamilton's performance? Notice how we keep connecting Hamilton to poor performance. On the other hand, you have George Russell, who is the only driver on the grid that has been able to finish in the top 5. And if you were Mercedes principal Toto Wolff, then you'd have to make a very difficult choice regarding car setups and tactics around the number one driver. Before the start of the season, it was already a no-brainer decision that Hamilton would lead the way, with George learning as much as he can so he can inherit him. But as of now, George seems like the leader of the team, and he has 34 points more than his teammate, sitting at P4 in the Drivers' Championship. But why is George, a rookie in the Mercedes, so much better than his teammate, who is already a proven master and probably the greatest one to ever do it, along with Schumacher? You could say that George's experience in Williams has made him a better driver. When you drive a bad car for a long amount of time, you get used to it, and you kind of expect what it can deliver. Now, Mercedes is far away from being a bad car, but it seems like this season the car is failing to achieve its full potential. Therefore, it's safe to say that this version of the W13 suits George more because of the problems and the performance that is far away from its best. Then you have Hamilton, who hasn't driven a bad car since 2009, when he didn't manage to win a single race in the season. Yes, he's a proven champion, but he hasn't had the opportunity to learn how to drive a car that is way below his performance expectations for a long period of time. Does Mercedes have the time to wait? The answer is no. They brought a huge package to Barcelona, and it seems like they found a way to stop the porpoising on their car. What's even more encouraging is the fact that Russell has been able to defend Verstappen for 5 laps, even with the Dutch using DRS on some occasions. True, Verstappen had DRS problems and his flap wasn't able to open several times, but George was driving a car that was much slower than the Red Bull, and yet he managed to defend like a monster. The brilliant driving from the Brit, along with the DNF of Charles Leclerc, saw him finishing P3 and grabbing yet another podium for the Silver Arrows. Hamilton's experience in Barcelona was a roller coaster one. He had a collision with Magnussen at the beginning of the race, leaving him with a left tire puncture. After pitting, he briefly said, "If I was you guys, I'd save this engine. I'm sorry." To which his engineer replied, "There's still a chance for points. We think that you could go P8 or even better." One could say that Hamilton giving up is one reason more to switch the focus to George, simply because the youngster has more motivation and freshness in himself. As things stand now, Mercedes is far away from competing for the championship, and even if they somehow get into the mix, Russell is their best choice, as he only managed to finish below Hamilton in Bahrain. There's another occasion that happened in Miami GP that shows Mercedes' intention to make Russell their number one driver. For the first time since 2016, both Mercedes drivers were allowed to race fair and square. And we know what happened that year, as Rosberg was able to get his maiden championship, with his main rival being his teammate Hamilton. Miami was a true test to Russell and his tenacity, as he never backed down from a duel and managed to fight properly with Hamilton. He showed that he means business and will never back down from a duel, even with the 7-time world champion. That's the kind of spirit Mercedes would like to have in their driver, which only adds to the narrative that Russell is slowly but surely becoming the #1 driver in this season. Both Mercedes drivers have different opinions when it comes to car design. Hamilton is pushing the idea to bring back the more traditional Mercedes car. That includes classic side pods, while Russell believes the design itself isn't responsible for the porpoising, and there is another key to unlocking more potential. And to be honest, Russell is more to be trusted in this situation, because he's the one bagging decent results in an underperforming car. However, Hamilton has the experience and could be the deciding factor if Mercedes decides to switch to a more traditional car design. There is one possibility where Mercedes could go out with 2 different W13s, one with a no-pod side pod design, while the other with more classic designs. However, there isn't a very high possibility that Mercedes will fulfill Hamilton's wishes, because the car itself is very well utilized by Russell, and they brought some decent packages in Barcelona, while the side pod's design remained the same, with a little change on the floor edge. It seems like Mercedes understood the problem that caused porpoising, and it seems like they understand that hammer time is probably over, and the time of the youngster is here. George continued to prove himself further, as he managed to finish P5 in Monaco. As for Hamilton, he finished P9, failing to pass Ocon for P8. However, the Frenchman received a penalty, which promoted Hamilton to P8. Hamilton is costing Mercedes very valuable points. And although the team is keeping the 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship steady and stable, this is not a situation the team is happy with. Therefore, it's safe to say that the team is slowly but surely switching their focus to Russell as their new leader, with Hamilton being left to prove himself in a bad-performing car. The updates could help him reach his peak again, as he has the much-needed experience for that. But so far, it seems like Mercedes is ready for a change, and the change has probably already happened.